is something that is truly yours. It doesn't cost anything, and no one can take it away from you. Yet, a lot of musicians tell me quite often that discipline is something that eludes them. But when it comes to developing as a musician, there's a considerable likelihood that you'll achieve the success that you desire, provided you understand the principles of discipline. As such, it can be helpful to consider some of these principles. For example, self-control, responsibility, diligent study, and consider how it is that these principles may relate to your life and exactly what it is that you'd like to achieve. On a personal note, I'm not quite sure that I would still be sitting here playing guitar for you had I not been incredibly disciplined over the years in making sure that I practiced every day and making sure that I kept my playing up to a high standard. So today, I'd like to share 4 steps on the path to becoming a more disciplined musician that have become apparent to me over time. And I'd love to hear from you. Is there anything that you've done in your life as either an aspiring musician or a professional musician to help yourself become more disciplined? Make sure to drop a comment and let me know your journey. Before we get started, it would be fantastic if you could give this video a like and consider subscribing. And if you'd like to learn with me in a little bit more depth, make sure to join me at bensguitarclub.com, where you can check out my mini lessons, masterclasses, and bundle packages, including the BGC bundle, which features all of my mini lessons and masterclasses in one package. These days, it's undeniable that we live in a world of computers, smartphones, and subsequently push notifications. And these forms of communication have in many ways enriched our lives. We're able to do a lot of things that we once could only have imagined as a result of this incredible technology. However, one of the most noticeable drawbacks of this remarkable technological advancement is that we all tend to be a little bit more distracted as a result. It can certainly be a lot harder to concentrate when you have this many devices trying to grab your attention. In my opinion, one of the most important factors in maintaining discipline is eliminating distraction. Now, you don't have to remove these devices from your life altogether, but certainly placing a limitation on these types of device-related distractions can be a very positive thing in terms of maintaining the discipline of your music practice. Perhaps I've said it before, but I'll certainly say it again. One of the behaviors that I noticed within myself when I was practicing or otherwise trying to concentrate on making music was that I would go to check the time, particularly on my phone, and then suddenly, just as a result of checking the time on my phone, my concentration would be broken, and all of a sudden I would be distracted by an email that had come in on my phone or some other type of notification that popped up on the screen. One way around this that I found was to have an analog watch, or if you're practicing at home, to have an analog clock on the wall facing you so that you can always see the time without the unnecessary distraction of your phone. Additionally, if a non-music related thought pops into your mind while you're practicing or otherwise working on music, just write it down and then you'll come back to it later. That can also be a fantastic way of avoiding distraction. Now, this is certainly not a rant against all of these electronic devices. After all, that would be a little bit hypocritical considering the fact that I'm communicating with you right now via YouTube. But rather, this is just a way of making sure that you're in control of your own devices rather than the devices being in control of you. After eliminating distraction, it's very important to make sure that you stay in some type of routine. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to practice 8 or 10 hours a day. It could simply mean the routine of playing or practicing even 30 minutes to an hour a day. Of course, everyone's schedule is different and everyone's method of time management is different. But regardless of how you manage your time, you can certainly make sure that you stick to some type of routine every day. I've spoken in the past of my 6-section practice routine, and while you may not be able to get through all 6 of the sections in one day, you can certainly take 1 or 2 of them and stick to them in some type of routine fashion, and I think even that alone will ensure that you see some positive improvements. The 6 sections are: first, we start with a warm-up, which could involve warming up with some materials like scales or arpeggios, the kind of stuff that I discuss in How to Practice Volume 2 and How to Solo with Triads at bensguitarclub.com. You could then go on to your second section of practice by doing some voice leading exercises, taking a familiar set of chord changes and utilizing the arpeggios and scales that you warmed up with to play through those changes. The next section of practice could involve practicing some chord voicings. After that, you could explore some new language to apply to the guitar neck by looking at some transcriptions, either solos you've transcribed yourself or transcriptions by someone else. The 5th section would involve practicing playing. And if you'd like to hear a bit more about what I mean by practicing playing, watch this video up here. The final section of practice for the day would be something that's overlooked by guitarists all too often, and that is sight reading. Of course, you may not be able to get through all 6 sections in one day, but certainly by just taking even 1 or 2 of these sections, isolating the materials, and getting into a regular routine, I think you'll start to see some dramatic improvements. So we've talked about distraction, we've talked about routine. The next thing you have to do is make sure that you can keep going, and that means perseverance. And remember, to persevere, you have to make sure that you can focus. One way that's been effective for me in making sure that I persevere with whatever it is I'm working on, whether it be my practice on guitar or composing new music, is this: setting goals. Make sure that you set realistic goals for yourself in terms of what you'd like to achieve. Think about exactly what type of musician you'd like to be, exactly what type of music you'd like to make, and then think of a realistic timeline in which you can achieve these goals. Without personal goals which you can achieve within a realistic timeline, it can certainly lead to you feeling a little bit aimless when it comes to making music, and that can be really detrimental to your own personal motivation. So make sure you stay motivated and persevere. And finally, after discussing the 3 more difficult steps on the path to discipline, we can talk about something that I think we can all enjoy, and that is success. Now remember, success can be very subjective. Just about everyone has their own idea of what success looks like, and indeed what success is. But for the purpose of this discussion regarding discipline, overcoming distraction, establishing routine, and maintaining a sense of personal perseverance will very likely ensure that you are on the path to success. Depending on what you're trying to achieve, maybe success is developing your playing sufficiently to be able to solo through some very complex chord changes. Or maybe success looks like getting a gig that you always wanted to get. Make sure to let me know down in the comments below what success means to you, and feel free to share some of your own personal successes. While discipline as part of your own development as a musician, and perhaps even as a person, may seem elusive at times, it's certainly not impossible. So I hope that this discussion today has been helpful in re-establishing focus on the path to becoming more disciplined. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and consider subscribing so you don't miss any of my upcoming playing videos, lesson videos, and discussions about music a little bit like this one. And if you'd like to take your playing to the next level, make sure to join me at bensguitarclub.com. I'll see you next time.